There are moments in life when even the strongest hearts falter. For fans of Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun, that moment came on a night when the air was heavy with emotion, and the whispers of goodbye carried more weight than anyone could have imagined. Kim Go-eun stood quietly, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. The cameras had finished rolling, the set lights dimmed, and yet, the heaviness in the air felt thicker than during any scripted scene. For days, rumors had circulated. Rumors of distance, of disagreements, of decisions neither wanted to make but were forced to face. And then, when she finally turned to him, fans knew this was not acting. This was something raw. Something real. She whispered her goodbye. Not the kind of goodbye you say lightly. Not the playful kind exchanged between friends who will meet again in a few hours. It was the kind of goodbye that seemed to shatter something unseen, the kind that makes time itself pause. Her lips trembled. Her voice cracked. And though she tried to mask it, a single tear betrayed her, slipping quietly down her cheek. For a brief second, Lee Min-ho just stood there, stunned. This was Kim Go-eun, the woman who could light up a room with laughter, the actress who always carried herself with grace and strength. To see her break like this, it pierced through him in a way he hadn't been prepared for. Fans who later saw leaked clips of that moment swore they could see it. The exact instant when Lee Min-ho's heart broke alongside hers. But what happened next is what made the entire world stop. Instead of letting her go, instead of accepting the distance, Lee Min-ho took a step forward. One step. Then another. Until he was standing right in front of her, close enough that she could feel his warmth despite the cold night. Without hesitation, he reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and brushed the tear from her cheek. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was quiet, intimate, and filled with a tenderness that words could never carry. And then, before she could step away, before she could turn her face to hide her pain, he pulled her into his arms. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't planned. It was instinct. Pure, undeniable instinct. Kim Go-eun froze at first, her body tense with all the weight of goodbye. But then, slowly, she let herself sink into the embrace. And that was when the tears truly came. She cried, not because she was weak, but because sometimes love, pressure, and reality collide in ways too heavy for one person to bear alone. And Lee Min-ho held her tighter, as though he could shield her not just from the rain, not just from the night, but from the very world that had placed them in this impossible position. Those who saw it whispered that in that embrace, it no longer mattered what was true, what was rumor, or what was expected of them. All that mattered was that in that fragile moment, Lee Min-ho chose her. He didn't let her goodbye end with silence. He didn't walk away. Instead, he showed her, and the world, that love is sometimes strongest when it is quiet, when it asks for nothing but gives everything. The aftermath was explosive. Fans around the globe began piecing together every clip, every photo, every blurry fan cam angle of that night. The hashtag #Minoon Goodbye began trending within hours, with millions of posts capturing both heartbreak and admiration. Some wrote, *, the way he held her. That wasn't acting. That was real love. *. Others said, *, if this is goodbye, then why does it look so much like forever? *. Even news outlets couldn't ignore it. Headlines screamed with speculation. Lee Min-ho comforts Kim Go-eun amid goodbye rumors. A hug that spoke louder than words. But while the internet debated, only they knew the truth. For Lee Min-ho, that moment was more than just comfort. It was a promise. He had always been known as the gentleman, the star with charm and charisma. But to Kim Go-eun, in that moment, he wasn't Lee Min-ho the celebrity. He was just a man who couldn't stand to see the woman he cared for breaking in front of him. And for Kim Go-eun, that tearful goodbye no longer felt like an ending. Because in his arms, endings didn't exist. There was only this, two people, holding on to each other, against the odds. The days that followed brought even more speculation. Was it really goodbye? Was it a sign of reconciliation? Or was it something deeper? Something the world wasn't yet ready to know? Fans dissected everything. A ring on his finger. Her smile in a behind-the-scenes photo just days later. The way their eyes still found each other during press events. And though no official statement came, people didn't need words. Sometimes actions speak louder. Sometimes one embrace can carry the weight of an entire love story. As months passed, the memory of that night didn't fade. It grew. Edits of their embrace set to music circulated endlessly, with captions like, "A love too strong for goodbye," and asterisk, "Some goodbyes are just beginnings in disguise." Asterisk. And perhaps in the quiet corners of their hearts, Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun knew it too. That night, she had said goodbye. But what he did next, that changed everything. Because in choosing to hold on, he gave her something greater than words. He gave her a reason to believe that even when the world demands distance, love finds its way back. And that, more than anything, is why fans say this moment broke their hearts and healed them all at once. Because they weren't just watching two stars. They were watching two souls. And in that embrace, under the weight of tears and silence, they witnessed something rare. They witnessed love refusing to let go. The days after that emotional night carried a strange silence. Neither Lee Min-ho nor Kim Go-eun gave interviews, neither posted anything on social media, and neither addressed the storm of speculation head-on. But sometimes silence can speak louder than noise. Fans who knew them best understood. Both were processing. Both were carrying not just their own emotions, but the weight of millions of eyes watching, dissecting, and demanding answers. And yet, through that silence, there were small signs. Subtle, quiet glimpses that told fans this wasn't the end. At one airport sighting, Lee Min-ho was photographed wearing a simple black cap pulled low over his eyes. But sharp-eyed fans noticed what he was holding in his hand. A familiar notebook, one that Kim Go-eun had been seen carrying on set months before. Coincidence? Maybe. But to their fans, it was proof. He carried a piece of her with him. Then, just weeks later, Kim Go-eun was spotted out with friends. And though she smiled for the cameras, there was something in her gaze, soft, tender, that reminded people of him. Even in a crowd, it was as if her eyes were searching for someone who wasn't there. The story of their tearful goodbye had already gone viral, but now fans began to shift the narrative. What if it wasn't a goodbye at all? What if it was just a chapter in a much longer story? Clips of their past resurfaced. Lee Min-ho sneaking glances at her during interviews. Kim Go-eun's laughter lingering a second longer when he was nearby. The way they always stood just a little closer than necessary, as if distance didn't quite suit them. And in those clips, people found their answer. The truth wasn't in the rumors. It wasn't in the headlines. It was in the way he held her when she was breaking. It was in the way she didn't resist his embrace. It was in the undeniable chemistry they had carried for years, too strong to be scripted, too raw to be faked. Weeks turned into months, and still, the memory of that night lingered. The hug, the tears, the silence that followed. And then one evening it happened. At an award show neither had been expected to attend together, the crowd gasped as Lee Min-ho walked onto the stage. Not for a performance, not for a speech, but to present. And just moments later, Kim Go-eun joined him. For the first time since the goodbye, they stood side by side in front of the world. And though the lights were bright, though the cameras were endless, their eyes